Millionaire plans a surprise for his fiancée, but what he sees at home is shocking. Ethan Cole checked his watch for the third time in 5 minutes, his fingers tapping lightly against the steering wheel of his sleek black car. The city lights of downtown Chicago blurred past him, but his mind was miles ahead, already inside the penthouse, already imagining her reaction. Tonight was supposed to be perfect. He smiled to himself, glancing at the small velvet box sitting on the passenger seat. Inside it was a diamond bracelet, simple, elegant, exactly the kind of thing Olivia loved. Not flashy, not loud, just meaningful. He had planned everything down to the smallest detail. The candles, the soft music, the handwritten note he had spent an hour rewriting because nothing ever felt good enough when it came to her. And most importantly, his early arrival. For once, he had left the office before midnight. For once, he had chosen her over meetings, contracts, and endless calls. It felt good, different, because Olivia deserved that. She always had. Ethan's life hadn't always been polished glass towers and million-dollar deals. He remembered the days when he had barely enough money to afford rent, when rejection emails came more often than opportunities. Back then, Olivia had been there, steady, patient, quietly believing in him even when he didn't believe in himself. She had stayed when things were hard. And tonight, he wanted to remind her that he hadn't forgotten. As the car pulled into the underground parking garage of their building, Ethan felt a strange excitement, almost nervousness. It wasn't like him. He negotiated million-dollar deals without blinking. But this mattered more. He grabbed the velvet box, slipped it into his coat pocket, and headed toward the elevator. The ride up felt longer than usual. He imagined her face when she opened the door. The way her eyes would light up. The way she'd laugh, that soft, genuine laugh that had always made everything else feel smaller. He stepped out into the quiet hallway. Something felt off. It was subtle at first. The kind of feeling you can't explain but can't ignore either. Their door wasn't fully closed. It was slightly ajar. Ethan frowned. Olivia was careful, always. He moved closer, his footsteps slower now, more cautious. The hallway felt unusually silent. Olivia, he called gently as he pushed the door open. No answer. The apartment lights were on. But the scene inside wasn't what he expected. The candles he had planned. Not there. The calm, warm atmosphere. Gone. Instead, the living room was messy. Not just casually untidy, but disrupted. Cushions out of place. A drawer left open. Papers scattered on the floor. Ethan's chest tightened. Olivia, still nothing. His heart began to pound. He stepped inside, his senses sharpening. Something wasn't right, and then he heard it. A faint sound. From the kitchen. Not laughter. Not music. Voices. Low. Urgent. Ethan froze. There was a man's voice. His grip tightened around the small box in his pocket. For a brief moment, 1,000 thoughts rushed through his mind, none of them good. He moved slowly toward the kitchen, his steps careful, almost silent. The voices became clearer. Olivia's voice, and someone else's. "We don't have much time," the man was saying. Ethan's heart dropped. He stepped into the doorway. And stopped. What he saw didn't make sense. Olivia stood by the counter, her face tense, her eyes focused. Across from her was a man in his late 30s, wearing worn-out clothes, his hands shaking slightly. Between them, on the counter, was money. Stacks of it. Ethan's breath caught. Olivia looked up, and saw him. Her eyes widened. Ethan. But he was already stepping forward, his voice tight. "What is this?" Silence filled the room. The man looked nervous, glancing between them. Olivia took a step toward Ethan. "It's not what you think." "Then what is it?" Ethan snapped, the hurt already creeping into his tone. He looked at the money again. At the stranger. At Olivia. Everything felt wrong. "I come home early to surprise you," he continued, his voice lower now but heavier, "and I find this." The man shifted uncomfortably. "I should go." "No," Ethan said sharply. "You're not going anywhere." Olivia shook her head, her expression a mix of concern and urgency. "Ethan, please, just listen to me." But Ethan's mind was racing. "Who is he?" he demanded. There was a pause. Then Olivia said quietly, "His name is Daniel." Ethan let out a humorless laugh. "Of course it is." The tension in the room thickened. And why, Ethan continued, is Daniel standing in our kitchen with a pile of cash? Olivia hesitated. That hesitation hurt more than anything. Ethan felt it like a crack forming somewhere deep inside him. Olivia, he said, softer now but more dangerous, talk to me. She looked at him, really looked at him, and something in her expression shifted. Not guilt, not fear, something else, something steady. His daughter is in the hospital, she said finally. The words hung in the air. Ethan blinked, caught off guard. What? She needs surgery, Olivia continued. Urgent surgery. Ethan looked at the man. Daniel, again. Really looked this time. The worn clothes, the exhaustion, the way his hands trembled. I met him a few weeks ago, Olivia said. Outside the clinic. Ethan frowned. Why didn't you tell me? Because I knew what you'd say, she replied gently. That stung. I wouldn't. You would have tried to fix it with a check, she said. And then moved on. Ethan opened his mouth, then closed it. Because she wasn't wrong. I didn't want that, Olivia continued. I wanted to understand, to help in a way that actually mattered. Ethan's gaze shifted between them. And this? He asked, gesturing to the money. I've been raising it, she said. His eyebrows furrowed. Raising it, Olivia, this is. I sold some of my jewelry, she said quietly. Ethan froze. What? The watch you gave me last year. The designer bags. Some other things. The room seemed to tilt slightly. You sold them, he repeated. She nodded. And I've been volunteering at the hospital, she added. Talking to doctors, helping with paperwork, finding people who could contribute. Ethan looked at the money again. Then at Daniel, then back at Olivia. And you didn't tell me, he said, his voice almost a whisper now. I was going to, she said. Tonight. The irony hit him like a wave. Tonight. The surprise. The bracelet in his pocket suddenly felt heavier. I just didn't want you to think I was doing it for attention, she continued. Or that I expected anything in return. Daniel cleared his throat softly. I should really go. Olivia shook her head. It's okay. Ethan stood there, silent, processing, replaying everything in his mind. The messy living room, the urgency in their voices, the money, and now, the truth. He looked at Daniel again. Your daughter, Ethan said slowly. What's her name? Daniel hesitated. Sophie. How old is she? 7. Ethan swallowed. What happens if she doesn't get the surgery? He asked. Daniel's eyes dropped. They said, she won't make it. The words landed heavily. For a moment, no one spoke. Ethan reached into his pocket. Not for the bracelet, for his phone. He stared at it for a second, then looked up. How much is still needed? Olivia hesitated. Ethan, how much? He repeated. Daniel answered this time. We're still short. About 80,000. Ethan nodded slowly. Then he did something neither of them expected. He set his phone down, walked over to the counter, and gently pushed the stack of money back toward Daniel. This isn't enough, he said quietly. Daniel's face fell slightly. But it will be, Ethan added. He looked at Olivia. There was no anger left in his expression now. Only something softer, something deeper. You were right, he said. She blinked. About what? This isn't about writing a check, he said. It's about showing up. Olivia's eyes softened. Ethan turned to Daniel. We'll get your daughter the surgery, he said. Daniel's eyes widened. I don't know how to. You don't have to, Ethan replied. There was a moment, small but powerful, where everything shifted. The tension, the misunderstanding, the fear, all replaced by something else. Something human. Ethan glanced around the messy room again, but this time, he saw it differently. Not chaos, but effort. Not secrecy, but compassion. He reached into his pocket again. This time, he pulled out the velvet box. Olivia looked at it, surprised. I was going to give you this tonight, he said, his voice softer now. She opened it slowly. The bracelet caught the light. Her eyes filled slightly. It's beautiful, she whispered. Ethan smiled faintly. But I think, he added, closing the box gently, you've already shown me something far more valuable. Olivia shook her head, emotional but steady. We can still do both, she said quietly. Ethan looked at her, and for the first time that night, he smiled fully. Yeah, he said, we can. Outside, the city lights continued to shine. Inside, something far more important had begun.